The first step, you will want to dismantle your gun, which we have done beforehand, and then you will want to sand all your pieces like I did on this one, where if you notice the light shining on it, it's very, very dull. You want them to be as dull as possible, and when you rub your finger across the smooth parts, it's just slightly rough enough. But you don't want to use a super heavy grit like this one. This is a P60, and if you notice it has sand granules that's been glued onto it. This would not be a good sandpaper to use on your plastic gun. The sandpaper that I will be using is specifically made, and it says on the package itself, for plastics plus other surfaces, and it's a wet or dry sanding waterproof sandpaper, which just simply means that it's going to last longer. I am using the 220 grit on the plastic, and so far all I've been using is this one little teeny tiny piece, and it looks pretty much as it did when I first started, because you just wipe it off and it's as good as new. On the Nerf guns you're going to find different textures. There'll be real smooth sections, there'll be really rough sections, and then there'll be the places where you have the label, and you can sand it to the point where you get all of the paint off. But if you're wanting to customize your gun completely, you can either use a file to file off the label altogether, or use a Dremel with a sanding disc or cone and take it off completely, and then you'd have a nice flat surface to be able to then paint and then do other special custom details on. So with this small teeny tiny piece, I'll just start sanding onto the surface and changing angles to get in and around where I need. And notice, because it's small, it will fit into those tight spaces a little easier than it would even with this larger piece. It's not as easy to get in and around. So that's why I like to use the smaller pieces. And then go into crevices. Some places the circular motion works really great, and others you can't seem to get the circular motion. So you can just use back and forth, changing angles as much as you can. And then also another trick is if you fold in a new spot on the sandpaper, you can use that inside grooves. So even those small grooves will be sanded enough so when you paint, the paint will actually stick in those grooves. Because you want this to last. And if you don't sand every little crack and crevice, then you will have a paint finish that might come off. And you can see the difference between where I've sanded and where I have not, where the light hits. It took me, with these two pieces, roughly 15-20 minutes to sand them both. So to do this entire gun, I would probably estimate an hour at the most, because if you don't sand really well, you're going to be wasting your time, because once you get it painted and then the first time you use it you rub up against something, it's going to be ruined.